We want to have no crime. I know Gavin was here. I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy. And we're going to, if he needed it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd love to see. We did help them a lot in Los Angeles, a lot with the early in my term when they had some problems. But we would love to do it. I will say this, if I were a Democrat governor or whatever, I would call up Trump. I'd say, come on in, make us look good, because we're cutting crime down to nothing. And we're taking people out, career criminals who are only going to do bad things, and we're bringing them back to their countries. But where we've done it has been amazing, and we have a capacity to do it at much greater levels. We're cutting illegal aliens off welfare and other government benefits, and I have directed that starting immediately, there will be no more payments to sanctuary cities, because they are really just sanctuaries for criminals. They're really protecting criminals, and those are the ones we have to get out of the country: murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They emptied their mental institutions into the United States. And despite that, we have the lowest crime numbers that we've ever had in the history of the country. Just came out. But equally importantly, we're cracking down on more than $19 billion in fraud that was stolen by Somalian bandits. Can you believe that Somalia? They turned out to be higher IQ than we thought. I always say these are low IQ people. How did they go into Minnesota and steal all that money? And we have, you know, they're pirates, they're good pirates, right? But we shoot them out of the water just like we shoot the drug boats out. They're not pirating too many boats lately, do you notice? When they go out into those boats, they want to take over $1.5 billion tanker loaded up with oil, and they say, we're going to blow up your boat. They have powerful weapons. You hit the side of the boat, you blow the whole thing up. The insurance companies are petrified, so they say, just give them the boat, we'll give them money instead. And I don't do that. We blow them right the hell out of the water. We see them going out, we blow them out of the water. We don't have any pirates so much anymore. If we do, they won't be there long. We've cut down with the hitting of the boats that are loaded up with drugs, including submarines. Can you believe they actually buy small, they call mini subs, very fast. They're meant for drugs. We've knocked out 2 of them. The Democrats say they were fishing. You have ruined somebody's fishing weekend. I would say a submarine is not a fishing boat. You don't fish. But we've knocked down drugs by water, the oceans, the sea, by 97.2%. Think of that. And I actually say, who the hell are the 3%? Because I would not want to be piloting one of those boats. We knocked them down, and now we're going to start on land. We're going to knock it all out. The land is the easy part. What we did on sea is incredible, and that's our great military. The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures which have failed to ever build a successful society of their own. I mean, we're taking people from Somalia, and Somalia is a failed, it's not a nation. Got no government, got no police, got no military, got no nothing. And then we have this fake congressperson who they just reported is worth $30 million. You believe this? Ilhan Omar, talking about the Constitution provides me. She comes from a country that's not a country, and she's telling us how to run America. Not going to get away with it much longer, let me tell you. The explosion of prosperity and conclusion and progress that built the West did not come from our tax codes. It ultimately came from our very special culture. This is the precious inheritance that America and Europe have in common. We share it. We share it, but we have to keep it strong. We have to become stronger, more successful, and more prosperous than ever. We have to defend that culture and rediscover the spirit that lifted the West from the depths of the Dark Ages to the pinnacle of human achievement. We live in an incredible, changing period. It's an unbelievable time, but we have to take advantage of the time that we're in. In our hands are technologies that our ancestors could scarcely have. I mean, they couldn't have even dreamt some of the things that we see today. And so rapidly they're produced. I mean, AI, 2 years ago, nobody ever heard of the term, and now everybody's talking about it. And it can have some very good purpose. It could also have some dangerous purpose. And For that, we have to watch out. But some tremendous things are happening because of it. And we're leading by so much. We're doing so well. But opportunities that are bigger and grander than ever before in human history are right before us. It is the pioneers in this room. Many of you in this room are true pioneers. You're two truly brilliant people. Just your ability to get a ticket is brilliant because you have about 50 people for every seat. I don't know what. That's Larry. Everything Larry touches turns to gold. He made this very successful. But you're in this room, and some of you are the greatest leaders anywhere in the world. You're the greatest brains anywhere in the world. And the future is unlimited.
I don't think I should start with Greenland, maybe.
Because of you. We have to protect you, and we have to cherish you. I always say we have to cherish our brilliant people because there aren't many of them. So together with confidence, boldness, and persistence, let us lift up our people, grow our economies, defend our shared destiny, and build a future for our citizens that is more ambitious, more exciting, more inspiring, and greater than the world has ever seen. The word pandemic.
Sorry about that, folks.
They came up with that name over a period of time. We won't get into that. But I heard the word pandemic, and I had a poll come out that was so strong just prior to that. And I was with the two best pollsters, Nicklin and Fabrizio, and they said, sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president,
there's about a 1.5 second delay between what he's saying and what appears on screen.
And then what happened is the following day, I was told to stay tuned because there's something really bad happening in China. There are bodies laying all over Wuhan, right around that certain building that we talk about. I always said it came from Wuhan. It did come from Wuhan. And there were body bags. We saw it by satellite. And they said, there are strange things happening in China. And so it began. And we ended up with the COVID, and the whole world suffered. We did a phenomenal job. I don't think we got the credit we deserved. We did something that Operation Warp Speed, which some people say was one of the greatest military feats ever. We did a great job. Used our military, used a lot of people. But sometimes you get hit with things, nothing you can do. You get hit with things like that unexpectedly. And we got through it. And when I left, the stock market was higher than it was previous to the COVID coming up. And I called it a great achievement. But things happen. Bad things happen. The things that we can stop are wars if we're smart. That we can stop. Those are a matter of being intelligent and having intelligent people on the other side. Because wars are the worst of all. Wars are worse than anything. But we can stop wars because that's sort of up to us. But things like dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from or whatever comes, sometimes you have to be a little bit lucky. But we are poised to have an economy like no other, not only in this country, but anywhere. And you know, when you hear the kind of numbers that I can tell you that Scott Bessent was with me the other day, and he's looking at numbers. He said, I can't. And that's all he's done his whole life, pretty much your whole life. Scott, you weren't going to be a football player, I don't think. Scott was not that great at football, but he was always good at numbers, right? And he was looking at numbers. He said, I've never seen anything like this. We're poised to do things that no other country has ever done. And, you know, luck, I hate to say it, but we need a little luck. We don't want to get hit by something that nobody could have thought. Whoever thought we were going to hit by a pandemic? You know, when I heard the word pandemic, I said, oh, that's an ancient problem. World War I, they lost 100 million people. It actually ended World War I. A lot of people don't know. The Spanish flu in World War I ended because all the soldiers were sick. The soldiers were so sick on both sides, and that war was raging, and they were all dying from the Spanish flu. They were sick as dogs. They couldn't fight. So, you know, you don't know how that would have turned out. But so we do, I mean, subject to that, and I always have to put a caveat in for it, but we're poised to have the greatest growth of any large country, I think any country that there's been. When you look at what's happening in the United States, it's really amazing.
Thank you. One thing that maybe keeps you up at night, I know you don't sleep that much anyway, Mr. President, is the debt. The U.S. debt is high, is now the biggest expenditure on your budget. How to get out of that impasse?
Well, the big thing is growth. I mean, growth is the way. If we grow like this, we go from having at 37 trillion dollars, we go from having high debt to low debt. But we also are cutting expenses, you know, the old-fashioned way. We have extraordinary growth. I think we're going to be growing our way out. I think we're going to be paying off debt. We're taking in tremendous money from tariffs fairly. And again, I'm using them judiciously. You know, Switzerland's a case study. I could have gotten much more. I could have asked for much more. But we're using them judiciously. But I think growth, most importantly, and then cutting costs. Now, if you take a look at Minnesota, $19 billion in fraud and other things. People going to airports, they came into the country, they don't have 10 cents, and they're leaving with hundreds of thousands of cash in their bags. When we get to that, and our DOJ, Pam, and Todd, and all the people that work over there, and all of the people that work in here, I can tell you, Scott Bessent is working on that. It's a priority, right? You have your whole team. We're in there looking for where this money is coming from, how much it is. It could be more than $19 billion. Can you believe that? That's just one state. If we were able to cut out 50% of the fraud, 50%, and we should be able to do better than that, we would have a balanced budget without having to talk about even growth. So we have a lot of options, but we're working very hard on that. That's a big deal. It's not just.
You're watching a live feed from the White House of President Trump in Davos at the World Economic Forum speaking. He finished his speech a short while ago. The feeds coming from all media outlets and from Davos are slightly behind. The video is coming in behind the voice. I guess they have bad internet in Davos, but your eyes aren't deceiving you. So you'll see him speak after you hear it.
Growth exponentially in the U.S.
Well, AI has been a big factor. AI is massive. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg showed me a plant where he put it over a map of Manhattan, and it was basically the size of Manhattan. This is not, I said, you got to be kidding. It's a plant that was miles long, miles wide, very high. I don't think it was high like the Empire State Building, but it was high. And it literally covered most of the island of Manhattan. That's called a big plant. And, you know, when I heard they're going to spend $50 billion building it, I said, you know, if you spend $50 million, you can build a nice little shopping center. If you spend $500 million, you can build a good shopping center. But how do you spend $50 billion? When I looked at this thing, I said, you think you'll be able to do it for that? It's amazing when you know, some of the plants that I see, and I see them all.
Can't they give him a
so big
pin on microphone so it doesn't have to hold a mic?
Electric generation. This way we have no problem, and otherwise they'd be complaining. There'd be nobody able to. But you know, we have an old grid system, and not only that, they're going to sell at a very cheap price the excess electricity that they create back into our grid. So that'll solve some problems for certain states that don't have enough electricity.
We also know that on the AI, there is fierce competition between the U.S. as the largest economy in the world, 27% of the global GDP and 5% of the global population, not doing that badly, and China. And we know that that competition is very tough on AI. I know you're heading to a state visit to China in April. How do you see the U.S.-China relationship moving forward? Are you able to combine this tough competition with also collaboration?
So I've always had a very good relationship with President Xi and with President Putin. Talk about, you know, the larger powers. But I've always had a very good relationship with President Xi of China. He's an incredible man. What he's done is amazing. He's highly respected by everybody. And I do now. I mean, now I have good. It was very severely interrupted by COVID. I used to call it the China virus, but he said, do you think you could use a different name? And I decided to do that because why should we have a problem over that? But I would do that, and they
You're
were.
a true diplomat, huh?
I became a diplomat for the first time. Well, you know who taught me that? Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio. He said, let me teach you about diplomacy. Hey, any guy that gets approved by 100% of the votes, think of it, he got liberal Democrats and radical right Republicans to approve him. He's the only one. The next one was like lost 45 votes, right? But he got all 100 votes voting for him. And at first I wasn't happy about it. I said, wait a minute, I don't like that. And now it turns out that the Democrats probably wish they didn't do that. And Marco has been fantastic. Marco, stand up, please. You have done a great job as Secretary of State. He's going to go down as the best Secretary of State. And Scott, and we have Susie, who's the first female Chief of Staff, and she's the best Chief of Staff, too. And I see Howard Lutnick, who I know spoke, and Howard's fantastic. Some of the deals we're doing are great. And I want to pay particular attention because we have Chris. And Chris, you got up and spoke, I think. He's the #1 oil man in the world, because I was going to put Doug Burgum, who's fantastic. I don't know if Doug's here. Is Doug here? Doug Burgum is fantastic. He said, sir, there's one man better than me. And he introduced me to Chris. And he turns out to be. So we're drilling more oil and gas now than we ever have by almost double. Is that right, Chris? And on top of it, we get a lot coming out of Venezuela. So anyway, so we're doing great. The country is just doing great. We have great people. Thank you. And I see other people. We have Steve Witkoff. We have Jared. I got so many people. I'm in trouble because when I go back, they're going to be people with long faces. Sir, you didn't introduce me. I got so many people. And we have a lot of the greatest people anywhere in the world. I know them all. So I won't continue because we'd be here all day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also know that you're a deal maker, and then maybe coming back to Greenland and Ukraine. What kind of deal in the end do you see between the U.S. And Denmark? Because, you know, I guess you see it now as a negotiation going on, or?
Well, it's costing Denmark hundreds of millions a year to run it. And Denmark's a small country and wonderful people. But, you know, it's very expensive. It's a very big piece of ice. And it's very important. I mean, I don't want to repeat the speech, but it's very important that we use that for national and international security. That can create a power that will make it impossible for the bad guys to do anything against the perceived good ones. And it's a great block for Europe, just like, you know, Denmark was supposed to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. They didn't spend the money. They didn't spend anything, almost. And we'll see what happens. I just say this. NATO has treated the United States of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. We never got anything. We actually took care of the needs of NATO for years and years, which I felt was always unfair. So I got NATO to pay because they're rich countries. But I think it's time that NATO step up. We're helping them with Ukraine. Without us, I think Putin would have gone all the way. I think we have it. I think that could have been a World War III, if you want to know the truth. If Kamala was elected, or Joe, any one of those, you know, those thinkers, I think you could have ended up in World War III. And I will say Steve Witkoff has been dealing incredibly with, but we're not going to have World War III. We want to get it stopped, but we're not going to have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I think that could have evolved into World War III. It was a very, very bad situation, and it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed.
How close do you think there is on an agreement on Ukraine? I had the pleasure of speaking with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner yesterday. I know they're working hard on it. I know that they're also traveling now. Do you see this very close or still?
Well, I hate to say it. I thought that was going to be so. I settled 8 wars plus. And I thought that was going to be one of my easier ones. Not the easiest. Some I settled in a matter of hours because I'm good at that stuff. You know, the United Nations should be doing this. I shouldn't be doing it, but it doesn't matter. It's got to get done, saving a lot of lives. We're saving millions of lives. With Ukraine, Russia, there's tremendous hatred between President Zelensky and President Putin. That's not good. That's not good for settlements. We know from dealing. There's abnormal hatred. With that being said, I think Russia wants to make a deal. I think Ukraine wants to make a deal. And we're going to try getting a deal done. We're getting, I think, Steve, I think I can say that we're reasonably close. But what happens is oftentimes we'll have a deal with Russia. Russia's set, and President Zelensky will not do it. You saw that when he was in the Oval Office. I was not happy. And then we'll have President Zelensky wants to make a deal, and Putin doesn't want to make the deal. It's a very difficult balance, and it's big time, and it is, you know, to use a word, it's a bloodbath. It's horrible what's happening. It's a drone war. The drones are killing, you know, thousands of people a week, thousands. We have to get it stopped. So I believe they're at a point now, I'm going to meet with President Zelensky later today. I believe they're at a point now where they can come together and get a deal done. And if they don't, they're stupid. That goes for both of them. And I know they're not stupid. But if they don't get this done, they are stupid. So I don't want to insult anyone, but you got to get this deal done. Too many people are dying. It's not worth it.
President Sisi is sitting on the first row here. He spoke earlier today and also complimented you on the Gaza deal. I think there will be a signing tomorrow. Of course, there are different views on this, but how important do you think this signing is on the Board of Peace? And do you think this is going to sustain? Do you think we now will see Gaza reconstructed and the billions of US dollars invested?
I do. I mean, I think we have peace in the Middle East. There are some little situations like Hamas, and Hamas has agreed to give up their weapons. Now, you know, they were born with a weapon in their hand, so it's not easy to do. When they were born with a rifle in their hand. It's not an easy thing for them, but that's what they agreed to. They've got to do it. And we're going to know, Jared, over the next 2 or 3 days, certainly over the next 3 weeks, whether or not they're going to do it. If they don't do it, they'll be blown away very quickly. They'll be blown away. You know, we have 59 countries that are part of that whole peace deal. And some of those countries aren't even they're near the Middle East, but they're not in the Middle East traditionally. And they want to come in and take out Hamas. They want to come in. They want to do whatever they can. There's a problem with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and we'll see what happens there, but that's a problem. But there are these little flames, but there's peace in the Middle East. Now, had we not gone in and knocked out with those big, beautiful, we just ordered 25 brand new ones, the latest and the greatest, the B-2 bomber. Think of them, they went in there at 2 o'clock in the morning with no moon, no light, no nothing, and every single one of those massive bombs hit its target, 100,000-pound bombs hit its target, every one of them. And then on top of it, from a submarine 300 miles away, we hit the sites with tomahawks, which is an unbelievable weapon. So, you know, we did our job. If we didn't do that, you would have never had peace in the Middle East. And the countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar could never have, and others could never have signed anything because you would have had this dark cloud, and the dark cloud was Iran with nuclear. Iran would, if we didn't take them out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. They were very close to having the nuclear weapon, and we hit them hard. And it was a total obliteration. If they may try again, but they're going to have to try from a different area because that area was obliterated. Incredible thing we did. And because we did that, we were able to make peace. If we didn't do that, I would say, Jared and Steve, if we didn't do that, there was no chance of making peace because the countries I just named and other countries could have never signed off. They were afraid. They were afraid. We had a bully. The bully was Iran, the bully of the Middle East. They used to call it for years. They were the bully of the Middle East. They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.
Mr. President, I know you even had to change plane last night, so I guess you didn't.
Air Force One had to turn back.
I think you're, but your energy is still there. I know you have several bilateral meetings. I know you're also hosting a reception. So thank you so much for coming back to Davos. Thank you so much. It's highly appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks. President Trump speaks at Davos. He's just wrapping up question and answer session. So look at these rude people asking questions. It's not a press session. So that's Trump. There you go, folks. Wow. There you have it. So let's cover what President Trump had to say in his briefing in Davos. That was live from Davos. Sorry for the delay, but that was intentional by the White House. The feed, nobody had it with the voice matching the sound. So we can go back and watch it, Arthur. I didn't catch all of it. In fact, it was just towards the end we caught his speech there. Talked a lot. But let me run through what he said here, what President Trump said today. He's concluded his remarks. He finished speaking. He spent an hour at the podium. So let me just synthesize that in about 5 or 10 minutes here so that people aren't losing their mind trying to go back and watch this. Thank you for the 600 people here. Please hit the like button. Thank you for the super chat there, Trix Mostert. So he said, in capped off remarks, he paid tribute to the pioneers in the room who are said among the world's foremost pioneers. He said, the United States is back, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I'll see you around. And that's how I finished it. So he covered a number of topics. Greenland was at the top of this list, but he started out talking about the strategic importance of Greenland. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and underdeveloped territory sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. He says its importance has only grown with the increased prominence of rare earth metals. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. He went on to claim that it's part of North America and therefore our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest. He's correct. It is part of North America. It's not part of Europe. And it is a Danish colony, which is not mentioned by any other journalist except me. Only I'm talking about that. He also called Denmark ungrateful over Greenland. He said Trump said the U.S. military presence in Greenland during World War II seemed to suggest the U.S.'s vast defensive role there justifies his attempt to take control of it today. We saved Greenland and successfully prevent our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did. Okay? So that's what he also had to say. So beyond that, no, Greenland won't be a state. The population is too small. It would be a U.S. territory or protectorate. So what else have we got here? Notes. He said that the U.S. would be unstoppable in an armed conflict over Greenland, but he won't use force. The media have been lying and saying Trump is going to invade. They've been trying to spark stories and rattle the financial markets and undermine U.S. national interests by making false allegations that Trump is preparing to invade Greenland. Trump says it seems to suggest, he said European allies should pay him back for Washington's foreign policy by working on giving up Greenland. He said he won't use force unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where it would be frankly unstoppable. But I won't do that. People thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland where he already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Greenland. He called for immediate negotiations over Greenland. He continued his remarks saying that the U.S. is the only country that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, and make it so that it's safe for Europe and safe for us. That's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the U.S. He claimed the U.S. control of Greenland would not be a threat to NATO, but rather security enhancement, which I would agree with. Greenland is largely unprotected. The sea lanes and the summer route through the Arctic Circle are not protected by Denmark or NATO. Trump says allies don't appreciate his work ending wars, and I agree. He said he was touting all his ending of wars. He said, what did the U.S. get out of all this work, all this money, other than death, destruction, massive amounts of cash going to people who don't appreciate what we do? I'm talking about NATO. I'm talking about Europe. Yeah, the Germans had a security blanket over them for over 60 years at a cost of trillions of dollars on our national wealth. We spent decades in Germany and Italy and Greece and Turkey, in the UK and the Netherlands and France, defending Spain, defending these people from the Soviet bloc. And what do we get for that? Treated like crap by a bunch of leftists who have short memories of history. Yep. So he says, you can say no and we will remember. Trump has said, U.S. remember if his administration's attempt to take control of Greenland fails. We want a piece of ice for world protection and they won't give it. They have a choice. They can say yes and we'll be forever appreciative, or you can say no and we will remember. So will the colonial era of Danish colonialism end in Greenland finally after a few centuries of colonial occupation? Will it end with Greenland's independence? Will Greenland become a protector of the United States? And he went on to talk about the U.S., spent a lot of time talking about Democrats and Ilhan Omar and Somalis, and that was pretty entertaining. He also said that homes are built for people, not corporations. He went back to his domestic policy. He said that he's aiming at Wall Street, where businesses are buying up houses and basically turned into commodities. Homes are built for people, not corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters. That's why I've signed executive order banning large institutional investors from buying single-family houses. It's just not fair to the public. They're not able to buy a house, and I'm calling on Congress to pass the ban into permanent law, and I think they will. So that's populism on the part of Trump for the small guy, for the little guy, and definitely against the corporate interest. And so that's one reason why he's constantly in the crosshairs, because Trump doesn't do things for corporations. Trump does things for Americans and for America. And that seems lost on the left. They are supposed to be the savior and the person that stands up, the people who stand up for the little guy, but they don't. They stand up for their own personal parochial interests, whether it's importing people into our country under a refugee status, or it is providing social services to criminals in Minneapolis. These leftists seem to enjoy giving away our country and our resources. He also says he's threatened France with tariffs over drug prices. He told the audience in Davos that he threatened French President Emmanuel Macron with sweeping tariffs over drug prices, recounting in blunt terms what he said. Trump claimed a drug that cost $10 in France was priced at $130 in the United States. He didn't say why the medication which he was referring to. He also said he warned France they would face tariffs unless prices were doubled or tripled. You're going to do it, and do it fast, Trump said, adding that he threatened a 25% tariff on everything and 100% tariff on French wine and champagne, which conflicts with news reports which said it was a 200%, but whatever the case is. I don't want to go public with it. No, Donald, I will do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Trump said, I don't want to go public with this. And then Macron told Trump, no, Donald, I'll do it. Trump said negotiations took him 3 minutes per country, raising his voice as he told the audience that the U.S. has been getting screwed for 30 years. Well, the reason the U.S. is getting screwed for 30 years is because these foreign countries force the drug companies to sell the drugs at essentially a loss. And so Americans have been subsidizing out of our pockets and our insurance companies, driving up our health care costs, subsidizing all of your pills around the world. That's just the truth. With the exception of Axa Nobel and Sandoz and a few other drug companies based in Europe, the U.S. produces or develops virtually every major drug on the planet through our pharmaceutical industry. And then it's copied and stolen by Indian companies who steal they reverse engineer it from getting the drug, and then they sell it illegally in violation of trademark and copyright protections. And then these foreign countries force the drug companies, they want to operate and sell anything, to sell certain drugs at low prices. That's why drugs are so cheap in Canada, because the Canadian government either subsidizes or forces manufacturers to sell at a price that's a loss. And you might say, why would they sell it there? Well, because they can sell other drugs, which they can sell for profit, that people don't have to have, that they choose to have. And so they can make money. But in the U.S., the cost of research and development for these drugs is borne by the Americans. And we are the ones paying the price. It's absolutely ridiculous what these things cost. And I don't agree with President Trump's position on why France is so low, but I understand what he's doing. Yeah, private equity buying up veterinary practices. Well, the same thing happened in many industries. Banks have consolidated. The United States had 48,000 individual banks in 1990. Today, roughly, that was the figure. I think it was around the figure, 48 or 60,000. Today, the United States has less than 6,000 banks. All consolidation. Yeah. So, once geomagnetic field has collapsed completely, the way the ice poles will seek equilibrium and cause massive waves and earthquakes. Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, the magnetic poles change place every so many hundreds of thousands, millions of years. Huh? Who misspoke? Did I misspeak? Or did Trump misspeak? Well, Trump spoke extemporaneously. He didn't have to have a rehearsed speech for that. If it is the need for national security, why not place bases on it as he's able to do? He's explained all this, Chris Wyatt. He explained all this about the Golden Dome. In order for the Golden Dome to work effectively, the U.S. has to have an awful lot of positions there. So they do have a treaty. Look, I mean, we can argue and disagree with what Trump's got to say, but the bottom line is Greenland has not been defended. And the United States is not going to continue to be a sucker for Europe. If we're going to put these resources there, we have to have some sort of ownership. That's his position. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but that's really not germane. Trump's going to have his way. One way or another, he's going to have his way. So we can argue about it all day. What about B-52s? Iranian people must feel betrayed by Trump. Yes. Oh, you're just a troll, Stephen. You're a troll. You must be betrayed by Trump. I don't disagree with that, and I'm the first one to call him out on that before any journalist was doing it. You can never take him at his word. Just stop it. Stop being a child. Can't take him at his word. The guy fulfilled virtually every promise he promised when he ran for office. In the first year, everything he said he was going to do, he did. Thank you for your membership, Furi. So, yeah, stop with your bullshit. You can't be trusted. That's just ridiculous leftist Trump derangement syndrome. You're right that the Iranian people must feel betrayed, but the other thing is just bullshit. Bullshit. You're just spewing bullshit. U.S. will rule for the Pope of Rome till the end of this world. He wants green because the earth... Okay. Oh, Jan Thomas. Okay. I did not see the F-bomb against a member of the European Parliament. Yeah, I don't think he said against the Prime Minister. Chris Myberg, more trolls in here. Carney gave a wonderful speech yesterday. Well, he's an unimportant loser who has betrayed Canadians, and he will be a footnote in history. Yeah. He'll be a footnote in history. My opinion, all might not be citizens want, but Trump is a good businessman, good leader. Iceland is where all U.S. Air Force fields are. Trump's not confusing them. He's thinking too fast. Arnie Bruns, my trip to Rochester was brilliant. I met some interesting people, South Africans and others who were refugees, plus just people in Rochester. It was really lovely, except for one person. Okay. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. All right, Chris, you're not trolling, but that's just ridiculous what you said there. You can't trust him. How can you not trust the man? Anything he says, he delivered on everything. So I ask you, okay, Chris, you're not trolling. I'll accept that. Thank you. You thought it was a good speech. I don't know. I didn't care for the domestic portion of it. I didn't think that was necessary for a speech in Davos. The economic stuff, yes. The geopolitical stuff, absolutely. But going on about Ilhan Omar, I didn't think that served any purpose at Davos, and people probably just tuned him out. Dude, I read it, your comment. Well, I'll apologize if it wasn't your comment, but I read the comment. Maybe I misspoke, and if I did, I apologize. But there was a comment here. I would have sworn it was to you. If I misspoke, it was to someone else. Okay, where the hell did it go? Did it get deleted? Huh. Say Democrats is ungrateful and Danes on America died post on the pursuit of America's war. What does that have to do with the ungratefulness? The ungratefulness is we kept it from being occupied by the Nazis in World War II. All right, I don't see your comment there. I didn't make that up. Oh, okay. So, Chris Myberg, my apologies. It was Stephen Hus who said that, and I didn't say your name. I'm sorry initially. So, apologies. It's not a tribute to you. Stephen Hus said that. He said you can't take his word as fact. Never. Well, Stephen Hus, once again, how can you not take him as fact? He said he was going to remove illegal aliens from the country. He's done it. He said he was going to do many, many other things. Wild Bears, thanks for membership. He's done it. So saying that and actually, Chris Myberg, I addressed Stephen Hus when I said that, so there's confusion perhaps on your end as well. I said that maybe I confused the subsequently, so my apologies for that. But Stephen Hus is claiming that you can't take him as word, but that's nonsense. State where you can't take him as word. And I did agree that the Iranian people probably feel betrayed. Absolutely. But the Iranian people feel betrayed by everybody. This isn't new for them. Doesn't make it right, but it isn't new. All right, so sorry about that, Chris. We're straight. Oh, you enjoyed his speech. Gotcha, Chris. Okay, well, I wouldn't enjoy anything Carney has to say. Carney is a fool. Carney negotiated a trade deal for Canada, and I'll recount it very quickly for Canada. This is what he did. Canada had 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. So they weren't shipping them to China or to Canada because nobody's buying them. They're too expensive. So the average electric vehicle runs about $50,000. There's high end, there's low end, about 50,000. We'll go with that figure, $50,000. So with an 100% tariff, that made a car 100,000 Canadian dollars. Okay, U.S. dollars actually. We'll go with Canadian, 100,000. All right, and that money went to the government, half of it. So he went to China and negotiated a good deal for the Canadians. The Canadians want to ship their canola oil to China. Okay, there's an 85% tariff on Canadian canola oil to import to China. You want to talk about an aggressive player in economics? It's China. 85% tariff. They can't produce enough canola oil for themselves, but they put an 85% tariff on Chinese or Canadian imports. So Carney, the brilliant strategist and businessman he is, goes there and negotiates the 85% rate down to 15%. Well done. Now you can send your stuff over, only 15% tariff. So what did the EVs get? 100%? Now a bottle of canola oil costs $7 US, $8 for a large bottle. So an $8 item, the tariff went from 85% to 15%. So you're still paying 15%. Not bad. The EV tariff, which was 100%, was lowered to 6.1%. So instead of $50,000, the government now get something more like on the order of $3,000 per electric vehicle. And the market will be flooded with them. $49,000 per year. Billions of dollars revenue lost. Billions of dollars of equipment or cars shipped into Canada, undermining the local car industry. On top of that, what do the Canadians get? They're going to have to send hundreds of millions of bottles of canola oil to China just to get the same amount of revenue back. That's insane. That hasn't helped anybody. This is a stupid man. A stupid man. A stupid, stupid man. That's what he got. And people are saying he's such a great, wonderful guy. Hey, Sedgwill. Thank you, Chris Myberg. My apologies for misunderstanding what you were saying. No, Amanda, I'm not based in South Africa, so my content is here. Yep. Licensed podcasters, what a crock. First off, it would never happen. The South African government doesn't have the ability to do that. They can't even issue driver's license. This is a country that wants to license podcasters. They can't even issue driver's license. Seriously? We can't take something like that seriously. My goodness. My goodness. Yeah, even Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, was unhappy with the car deal because the Canadian car industry is based in Ontario, and they're going to be hit hard by this stupid stuff. Yeah, Davos is a joke, except it's not a joke because it affects you and affects me. The titans of industry and tech and power and media that go to Davos to kiss each other and have sex with each other people's wives and drink to excess and hang out like they're special people better than the rest of us. What they do there affects us. What they do there affects us. Yep. It was a stupid deal, Francis. What a dumb deal. And this is Carney. The guy's an idiot. But unfortunately, Trump's bluster about Canada probably led to that guy being elected instead of the conservatives. Yeah, I'm not a fan of canola oil at all. I don't care what the Chinese eat. Yeah, I hear you, Varushka. I don't trust any car that runs on a battery. It needs to be charged 60% of the time. No, thank you. Imagine yesterday if I'd had a battery in my car in Rochester at below 0 Fahrenheit with a wind chill. I mean, how long would that battery last up there? You know, and how long would it take to recharge it? Exactly. In high ambient temperatures, you have an issue with thermal runaway. And in freezing environments, you lose 60% of your battery capacity. Good luck, Candy. Yep. Yes, I think Carney went to an ANC college. Mafia Rot, thank you for your membership. Appreciate you joining. Mark, how have I been? I'm well. How about yourself? We are having an interesting conversation. Following President Trump's comments, he said he's not going to take Greenland by force. The media in the U.S. has been stoking this media story that Trump is organizing the military to invade Greenland. And Trump says, I'm not going to do that. Of course, Trump says a lot of things, so we'll see. All right. All right, folks, it's time for the news. I'm going to transition to the news broadcast. This will end. You'll be carried over automatically to it. Hopefully you go to it. We got 524 people here. Hopefully we can keep that up in the next stream. Thank you for joining me for this unannounced surprise stream. But I'll be starting the news stream here in just a moment. And hopefully you can join us over there, okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you in less than 5 minutes, about 3 minutes. So don't run off. You can go to the restroom or get something to drink, but I'll see you in just a moment for the news broadcast. Remember, it's Wednesdays, so we have an early broadcast because Wednesdays where the Colonel comes up. All right, that's going to do it for this. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done it already. I would appreciate how we doing on likes. We got what's going on here? There we go. 427 likes. That's not bad. Thank you very much for that. All right, YouTube acting a little funny in the background here. All righty, there we go. See you shortly.